Okay, Wildcats, today we're going to journal page 29, factor by grouping. Factor by grouping steps. Step 1, group terms. Step 2, factor common binomials from each group. Step 3, factor out the common binomial. Step 4, factor the GCF or the difference of squares. Okay, go ahead and finish it up. All right, now your notes are completed. Let's take a look at our examples. Okay, factor with grouping. Example number 1. Now, what you want to do in factor by grouping is you want to see what you can factor from the first two terms and the second two terms. So it looks like here we can divide both of these terms by 3 and we can factor out an x squared. So that would be the greatest common factor would be 3x squared, which leaves 12 divided by 3 is 4. You've taken out 2 of the x's, but there's 3, so there's 1 left. Minus 9 divided by 3 is 3x. So in here you've taken out the x squared and the x squared. Well, 9x squared divided by 3x squared is 3. Okay. Now here, the only thing you can factor out is a 1. So that's plus 1, which leaves 4x minus 3. Okay. Now you factor by grouping, and you can if these are the same. If they're not, then you can't factor by grouping. But since you're grouping, since this is being multiplied by 4x minus 3 and this is being multiplied by 4x minus 3, we can group these together. So that's 3x squared plus 1 times 4x minus 3. There's nothing else you can do, so that is factored by grouping. All right, example number 2. So it looks like here we can divide both of these terms by 4, and it looks like we can factor out an x squared from both terms. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. You've taken out 2 of the x's, but there's 3, so there's 1 left. And then 4x squared times 1 is 4x squared. Okay. Plus, again, the only thing you can factor out is a 1. So 1 times 3x plus 1. Since these are the same, it's factored by grouping. We group these two together. And this is factored by grouping. Okay? All right, let's finish up example 1 and 2. All right, let's take a look at example 3. Now, it looks like here the greatest number we can divide by is 20. And they both have an x, so we can factor out a 20x. Okay. Now, 140 divided by 20 is 7. We factor out an x, so the only thing left is a y. Minus 60x squared divided by 20x is now here. Think about what's the largest number we can divide 168 by? Well, the answer to that is 24. 168y divided by 24 is 7y. Minus 72x divided by 24 is negative 3x. Since these are the same, you can group these together. So that's 20x plus 24 times 7y minus 3x. Now in this case, we can factor, one more time, we can factor out a 4 from each of these terms. So 20x divided by 4 is 5x, plus 24 divided by 4 is 6. And this is now factored by grouping. Okay, example number 4. Okay, it looks like the only term that we can take from the first two terms is an x squared. Which if you take x squared away, that only leaves 1x here. Plus if you take the x squared out, that's the only thing left is 5. And it looks like we can divide both of these by negative 4, which negative 4x divided by negative 4 is x. and negative 20 divided by negative 4 is a positive 5. These are the same, so we can group these together. So that's x squared minus 4 times x plus 5. Now, this is a special case, and that's a difference of squares. So that factors out to be x minus 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 5. The reason we know that is if we were to factor that using reverse box method, we know first term, last term, we know x and x. Well, we know, since we already know the factors, x plus 2, x minus 2. So x times 2 is 2x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. 2x minus 2x is 0x. So that would be x squared minus 4. Okay? All right, so go ahead and finish up example 3 and 4. All right, example 5. It looks like here we can divide both of these terms by 3, and we can take it out of x squared. So that's 3x squared, which 3 squared leaves only 1x here, minus 21x squared, negative 20x squared divided by 3x is minus 7. And then it looks like here we can factor out a negative 1, which leaves negative x divided by negative 1 is a 1x, and 7 divided by negative 1 is a negative 7. These are the same, so we can group these together. So that's 3x squared minus 1 times 1x minus 7. There's nothing else you can do, so that is factored by grouping, or with grouping. All right, example 6. It looks like here we can divide both of these by 4 and factor out an x squared. So that's 4x squared, which 8 divided by 4 is 2. We've taken x squared out, which leaves 1x here. And then negative 4x squared divided by 4x is minus 1. Now it looks like here we can factor out a 25. So we can divide both of those by 25, which negative 50x. And actually, I take that back. We can take out a negative 25. So negative 50x divided by negative 25 is 2x, and 25 divided by negative 25 is negative 1. Now these are the same, so we can group these together. So that's 4x squared minus 25 times 2x minus 1. Okay, we know that this can be factored. Okay, so we know first term and last term. Now to make 4 squared, we know that's 2x and 2x, and we know to make negative 25 is negative 5 and positive 25. Oh, well, I'm sorry, it's positive 5. Okay, well, 2x times 5 is 10x. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. 10x minus 10x is 0x. So we're left with 4x squared minus 25. So this factored is 2x plus 5 times 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 1. Okay. So let me readjust the camera for a second. All right, go ahead and finish example 5 and example 6. All right, example 7. Now here we can actually factor out a 3 from all the terms. So if we divide everything by 3, that's 1x cubed plus 1x squared minus 1x minus 1. Okay, equals 3. Now we're going to factor by grouping. So it looks like here we can factor out an x squared from the first two terms, which leaves 1x plus 1, and it looks like we can divide the second term by negative 1, so negative 1, which leaves negative 1x divided by negative 1 is 1x. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1. Now, these are the same, so we can group these together. So that's 3 times x squared minus 1 times x plus 1. Okay? Now, we can actually factor x squared minus 1. So first term, last term. Now, we know x and x makes x squared. We know that a positive 1 times a negative 1 makes negative 1. So x times 1 is 1x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. 1x minus 1x is 0x. So then you're left with x squared minus 1. So this factors to be 3 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. Which x plus 1 times x plus 1 is x plus 1 squared. So this can be written as 3 times x plus 1 squared times x minus 1. Okay, let's finish up our examples with example 8. So it looks like the only thing we can factor out from here is x squared, which leaves 4x minus 1. And we can factor out an 8 from both sides, so plus 8. 8x divided by 8 is 1x. Negative 8 divided by 8 is negative 1. These are not the same, so it's not factorable by grouping. Okay, go ahead and finish up your examples, start working on your assignment, and have a wonderful Wildcat day.